So,
Yes.
righto, mates. Righto. Let's have a look. I think we're up and racing.
Beautiful.
Let's have a squeeze. Yep, nice. I think we're all happening, mates. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Resolute TV. Our first actual random live stream, I suppose. We normally do a fairly structured program, but as some of you may or may not know, there was a big shitstorm in Australia yesterday, and rightfully so, I believe. And today, via the Liberal Democrats and my role in life in general, I've come across Nick Zwart. Tell me if I've pronounced that right or wrong, mate.
You've done really well, yeah.
Nick reached out to us because he's got a story to tell. Mate, you were arrested in Homebush yesterday.
Absolutely, for the first time in my life. Yeah, it was a bit of a new experience. So, yeah, a little shaken up from it. It's something different, but yeah, I wasn't the only one.
No, mate. So, yeah. No, apparently not. No. So look, we're a bit of a libertarian freedom. I've been involved in the liberty and freedom movement in Australia 5, 6, 7 years. As soon as I discovered what it was, what this whole lockdown thing seems to be doing. From my perspective, is opening up people's eyes, going, "Holy shit, our freedom and liberty is valuable." So hopefully that's going to the negative effect. Hopefully will cause a positive effect. How did you come to be Nick? Who's Nick Zwart? How did you end up at a protest in Sydney? Where did you come about, mate?
Yep. So I live out in Western Sydney, out near Penrith here, and we've been watching what's going on with the lockdowns and everything, and I've been doing all the numbers on the stats and things like that, and it doesn't feel right. And we're starting to, like a lot of people, wake up to what's going on. And when these protests came up, especially given what's happening down in Victoria, I felt obliged to attend. So I rocked up on my own on behalf of my family, and to tell you the truth, on behalf of all the Victorians that couldn't, and anyone here that couldn't. So yeah, I thought I was just turning up for a nice day in the sun with some like-minded people, and I thought we'd be able to do our thing, because I've been to a rally here and there, like years and years ago when I was younger. So I thought I knew what to expect, but unfortunately it was something much different. So yeah, so I mean,
so you're obviously a political-minded kind of guy, mate. You don't have to tell people what you do for a living if you don't want to, but like,
I don't care.
Are you a professional, a business person, I'm
a tradie at the moment, but I'm a tradie. Yeah, I'm a tradie at the moment, but I do a bit of meditation and things like that. Meditation teacher, so yeah, a few different things. So. Yeah, I'm a pretty simple fella. I'm not overly political, but I mean, to the extent that I want to make an informed vote, and I do like freedom very much. So, yeah,
mate, and that's what I've been trying to push with. I'm a member of the Liberal Democrats. I don't know if you were familiar with us before this, but
I am.
I think a lot of people are starting to hear who we are based on what's going on currently. Our two MLCs down in Victoria have been doing, as far as I'm concerned, a really good job in their own style. So, and I don't know if you've noticed, but with all these sorts of things, well, you should have done it this way, you could have done it that way. And it's like, no, everybody's different. And the way Tim Quilty would attack this problem is very different to how a David Limbrick or a David Lionhelm, if he was still directly in the fight, or or myself or you, and that's part of where I say it's really interesting. Is a lot of people go, well, Tim should have said this that way, and it's like, no. You put your hand up, jump into the ring, and then you can do it in your own style, because it's important to stand up for what we believe in. So, mate, what happened? You showed up,
I showed up for the day, and I turned up, and I saw the park, and it was a lovely sunny day. And then the first thing I noticed was the police presence. It was just incredible. There were cars everywhere and things like that. And I sort of thought, oh, this is a bit strange. So I just walked around and sort of got a feel for it. And I was on my own, so I generally like to drift to the back and just sort of blend in and hide away. So I took a seat, probably about 80 meters from sort of where the front area was. cops were wandering around talking to a few people and things like that. It all looked pretty good. And then something that I just remembered just before, I was sitting there and I saw one of the senior cops about 5-10 minutes before it started go up to a group of the police officers and say, get the ones with the placards first. And in my head, because I was that set, I'd spoken to my wife before. I said, it's going to be fine. We'll go there for an hour and a half. I'll be home. She'll be hunky dory. And it turns out that's exactly what he said, because I brushed it off and just thought, nah, no way. So literally the proceedings started and drums started to bang, and there was just this really good vibe. Like, everyone was friendly. We were all there it was literally just for freedom, and there was all this peace and love and, a little bit hippie and things like that. So the chanting started, and a lot of people did move towards the front because it drew you in. It sounded really fantastic. I thought, this is going to be unbelievable. And almost immediately, riot squad guys just started rushing into the people at the front with the drums and things like that. And next minute, people are getting dragged out within a few minutes. Women, it was really indiscriminate, and really aggressively dragging them out. At that stage, an interesting thing that I noticed was that the media didn't seem to be there at that stage. As people were getting dragged away, and obviously rightfully getting aggravated because there were women being carried away by very big men, and they were rightfully getting a little bit, antsy about it. And that was when the media happened to turn up, unsurprisingly. So this started happening, and then the police had, just a lot more all of a sudden came into the picture, and we were just all in this oval, and it seemed like they just started picking people off at random and dragging them, escorting them away. It was really weird because we all just sort of hung around. I don't think anyone really knew, even though we're seeing it, none of us expected it, and we were all we weren't really sure what was going on, so we just hung around for a bit, and then eventually a few people decided that, okay, well, we'll try and play within the rules, so we'll start walking circles as a group through the oval we were in. So we began doing that, and we did that for quite a while, just doing loops and keeping our distance and things like that. And then they started to bring in lines and started to herd us like sheep. They brought the horses in and all of that. And slowly but surely they kept bringing us in. And then they pushed us out of the park towards ANZ Stadium. And I don't know how long this took, but they kept taking us around towards the train station. I don't know if they were going to try and eventually herd us onto trains and get rid of us. In amongst all this, people were still at times getting dragged away. I saw one woman get knocked over, and she had she'd be in so much pain today. I've got to go through all the video footage I got because I was recording a lot at the same time. But she had big welts all over her back. They'd knocked her over. And then eventually, for whatever reason, I could feel that they were herding us towards the train station, and my car was parked elsewhere. So I thought I'll just sneak sort of between the line and stand out the back. So I stood out the back there, and then I've got this habit ever since we've seen the woman during the Sydney lockdown who had a child grabbed from her.
Renee's been a guest on the show as well.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Renee's a really nice lady.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I've seen her on a few things, and ever since I've sort of seen their tactics, whenever I saw someone getting dragged away and I was near them, I'd film it. So out the back there, they dragged a few people away. So I went and stood up on top of a brick wall, just like a garden bed, and just sort of filmed them and what was going on around me. And then all of a sudden, two officers came up to me and asked me to come down, and then told me to go. I did question them very briefly, and I said, like, I don't believe you've necessarily got that authority, for the reason that it was on these health grounds, and I'm led to believe that there's certain constitutional rights that, in the current situation, outweigh their rights to move me on from a health directive. I may be wrong, but I just wanted to express that. Then I could tell they were very assertive. They weren't going to let me stay. So I sort of started, I wanted to get their details because I wanted to find out if they were authorized to give me that move on direction. And if they're not, I wanted to make sure I had their details, because I think we're at a point, especially given what we saw yesterday, that we're going to have to get smart about stopping this from happening and waking up these officers, because these guys were like robots. They were there to do a job, and they had no empathy whatsoever. I'm sure there was a couple, but the vast majority of them, it was kind of scary. And so I just repeatedly asked him. I wanted his details in writing, and I was going to happily leave. I asked him a few times. It was probably only 45 seconds, maybe a minute worth of, oh no, can I really get your details? I tried to remain calm. I even expressed specifically, look, I'm not, I'm calm, I'm fine. And the next minute, one of them just said, no, you're under arrest, and grabbed me, and they I at no time resisted. I even, again, expressed I'm not resisting. One of them put me in a wrist lock, which was pretty uncomfortable. Anyway, I also felt one of them grab at my phone, which was recording, and try and smash it out of my hand. When I had a look at the footage a bit earlier, there was actually an officer with another fellow who had been detained, who'd leant over as I was being pulled away and tried to smash it out of my hand. That's what the force was. So I don't know if they're meant to do that, but I found that interesting. And then for some reason, rather than do everything where I was, they dragged me probably 5 or so meters up a small set of stairs and around behind a set of hedges. I don't know why they dragged me there. They dragged me there and they put me face down into the ground. And then obviously let me sit up and do the whole thing. He was trying to grab me and pull me up. Obviously I was a bit shaken at that point. So he was like, get up, yelling at me. And I said, look, I'm getting up. I'm just shaken, like you've just dragged me up here. And then we did the whole spill. At that point, that actually hurt my wrist a bit. They're pretty forceful with that. It's obviously just like a little bit of a sprain thing. So it's not, I haven't broken anything, but it was just all very unnecessary, considering at no time did I try to run. No time did I try to resist. I was just asking them a simple question for their name, obviously whatever relevant details, and all of that. Now the interesting thing is that when everything finished, I cooperated. I gave them my details. The officer that seemed to be leading things, I'd repeatedly asked him for his name and the other officer's name, and I wanted in writing. As we left, he said, I asked him again, can I have your names in writing? He said to me, it's on the fine. In my confusion, I didn't check. At no time did he actually comply and give me his details. So I don't even, apart from the video footage, I couldn't get a good picture of their badges or anything. I actually don't have any identifier of them either, which to me is kind of concerning, because if there hadn't been people behind that bush, the bush that I got put behind, there happened to be a family sitting up just in the corner on a chair. And a part of me wonders what might have happened had they not have been sitting there. And I know that sounds terrible, but that's how forceful these guys were.
Mate, it does sound terrible, but to be perfectly honest, I don't think anybody, or not anybody, I think there's an awful lot of us currently that are, we're almost expecting this sort of behaviour out of our police force. I'm concerned that they're no longer a partisan entity. I mean, essentially they're taxpayer funded. They work for us. And the fact that you think that they're behaving like essentially robots it's a terrifying thought, man. And I've got relatives in the police force who probably aren't real happy with me over the last few months, but to be perfectly honest, stiff shit. If they're behaving, now I don't know whether they were involved in any of this sort of stuff, but if they are, I'll be pretty heartbroken that they haven't got enough courage, enough spirit to say, you know what, we're a bit out of order here. This is absolute bullshit. Mate, I'm really sorry for what's happened to you and for everybody else that was arrested, because as far as I'm concerned, your freedom and liberty, our freedom and liberty as Australians is paramount. If we haven't affected or hurt anybody else, we have no business being in anybody's cage or under anybody's forcible anything. Mate, so did they come out with anything? So you were saying when we messaged a bit earlier that you've got an awful lot of footage. Mate, did they try to take the footage or ask you to delete it? Did they try any of that shit, or they really just don't care anymore? What's in play?
They didn't care. I even at one point, because I thought, if you have done damage to my wrist, I need this looked at because I use it for my trade. It's important. I did ask them for some medical assistance, and the second officer there was very sarcastic. He just was not interested. And he basically treated me like an idiot for it, just being sarcastic. Oh, mate, don't move. That wrist is terrible. He was just a real smart aleck.
Mate,
I lost my train of thought.
So how long did they? Mate, this is the ultimate free speech channel. If you want to call them dickheads, go for it. You're not going to get too much sympathy out of me, or they're not.
Well, here's me. I usually don't swear. So, I mean, that's the sort of interaction I had with them, So I'm not the type of guy that goes off the handle with the drop of a hat.
Yeah. And did they detain you? How long were you sort of under duress, under their supervision, whatever you want to call it?
I think it was about 30 minutes. It was 25 to 30 minutes for sure. By the time I finished, they went from having still quite a decent crowd just down from where I was to having most people had dispersed by then. So quite a bit of time had passed. And actually, interestingly, they put the and that might help me with sorting out this fine. They put the wrong time on the fine for when it actually happened. So that might work in my favour.
Probably had a heap pre-done, mate. Fill in the name here.
Yeah,
that's sort of how a lot of it feels to me, is that there's just all carbon cut out and treat everybody like prisoners regardless. It's a pretty disgusting state of affairs, to be honest. Mate, look, so what's the next? How do they, when they let you go, how do they go about it? I mean, it just made world-class asses of themselves as far as I'm concerned. And they'll say, oh, yeah, mate, on your way, here's your fine. That'll be $1,000 or what was the number? Are you willing to say?
It's $1,000. So when we finished, they basically get up. They said, all right, you can go. And I said, well, I'd like some medical attention, please. So they basically pointed to an ambulance and said, there you go. And so I went over and saw them and said, look, can I get a bit of an ice pack just to make sure there's no swelling and stuff like that? And they were, I mean, we know what ambos are like. They're all pretty top class. So they were the complete opposite to the police. But they had no.
That's pretty hard as well. That's really hard as well, because part of me, as I said, I've got family that are involved as police officers and in military and ambos, and in theory we're always taught that these people are here to keep us safe and they're good people and they're only here to look after you. Now their argument for looking after us is, we're going to detain you, lock you up, treat you like a prisoner for your own safety and your own good. And that's the really scary part, in my opinion, is these guys now think that they actually think they're doing you a favour by locking you up and accosting you and harassing you. I've lost an awful lot of respect for
Oh,
the police force,
absolutely.
you may feel very similar.
I have two little girls that I'm seriously considering how I teach them to view the police, because it'll be a very long time before I trust them again. And there was actually, while I was detained, there was a little boy sitting with his mum and dad maybe 10 meters away on a wall. This little boy was looking at the police, telling them to go away. So this kid, he was probably about 6 or 7, and he saw what they were doing. And I'm just thinking, this poor kid, I mean, what's he going to think of police officers, now and into the future? So they're really tainting police officers in general.
Which is hard. When we were kids, we thought they were heroes.
Cops are tops.
Cops are tops, and they're who you go to in your time of need. I can tell you, I can't think of anybody that I'm less likely to call in a time of need at the moment, because I think they'll just lock. Well, I mean, I'm obviously some sort of a dissident, because I'm very, very comfortable in questioning them. As far as I'm concerned, and there's plenty of debate, and I've been getting a lot of stick online. What's new there? But these politicians and governments work for the people. That's the only reason they exist. They exist and fund themselves at our pleasure, not the other way around. The police are the same. The fiery. These people, they work for us now. And I've heard this catch cry of, we're all in this together, over and over and over again. And my head's ready to explode, because Dan Andrews and Scott Morrison are clearly in it together. ScoMo come out the other day going, "Oh, Dan's doing a great job down there." And and whether you believe in the virus or you don't believe in the virus is actually pretty irrelevant now, in my ever so humble opinion. Because Morrison came out and declared that a mandatory vaccination. He backpedaled like a mongrel dog really, really quickly. But he only backpedaled because there was so much instant backlash. I don't think he expected that sort of a response. And now he's patting Andrews on the back. So anyone who thinks that, and we've seen it for years, the Liberal Party's better than the Labor Party, and the Labor Party's better than the Liberal Party. Anybody who's paying attention's got to realise these guys are just all in cahoots, and the whole idea is to get the rest of us towing the line, paying the bill, providing the labour, so they get to live like kings and tell us what we can and can't do. Mate, how do you feel about the whole thing?
Well, you know what? That point you make about them all being the same, that became really clear on Saturday, because the reason I was perfectly comfortable with going there was because I thought, well, we've got a Liberal government. Of all the states, Queensland will probably be the one that cracks down on them. I thought we'd be fine. I really did. Being a Liberal government, I thought, that'll be all right. But yeah, it tells its own story. I mean, it's there for everyone to see.
Mate, look, 100%. I don't know what you know about my history, but I ran in the Eden Monaro by-election recently, and I actually put the Liberal Party lower than the Labor Party on my amount of votes. For the record, I put all the major 4 parties at the bottom. So there's 14 candidates. Nationals were 4th last. Labor was 3rd last. Liberal was, you know what I mean? And I worked my way down from there. And the backlash I got from Libs, who were just so determined, "Oh, you bastard, how dare you, we're supposed to be." And the reality in my eyes is they no longer represent Liberal, true Liberal values. They're not protecting anybody's freedoms. They're not doing anything. They're not lowering taxes. They're not doing anything for you. They're not stopping this. These lockdowns. I mean, I made a video the other day about the fact that yes, the lunatic in Queensland, she's off her chops, no doubt about it. They've had 10 cases or something of this coronavirus. She's got the border lockdown, but the AFL guys can fly up. Yeah, no, they're good. Yeah. Only looking good because everybody else is so shit.
Yeah.
That's the only reason she's looking good.
I feel like she's out of her depth. I really do. I almost feel like there's just so much going on behind the scenes, and she's just sitting there going, "Oh dear, what am I caught in?" I don't know. She just looks out of her depth to me. That's just
Mate,
what I get.
I'd argue that with most of them, to be fair, but then I've
Yeah.
got a fairly low opinion. I've got a fairly low opinion of politicians. You know, there is a handful that I've come across that are really shrewd, really switched on, and I think some of them mean well, but the majority of them are just protecting their asses. And I mean, I don't know if you saw the stuff about the Western Australian Premier would like to put ankle bracelets, ankle monitors on all.
I did see that.
Everyone who's diagnosed with COVID. Pedophiles out of jail don't get ankle bracelets, but
absolutely.
But it's all good. We'll do it if you get this. If you get this virus with a 1%, death rate or less than 1% death rate, it's crazy.
Well, they don't need ankle bracelets for pedophiles because the police are too busy stopping protesters exercising their democratic rights to be out catching pedophiles, and that's one of the real things. I mean, the amount of money that was spent on this effort. You know what? A lot of people said this at the time. It felt like an ambush because it was a strange place to have a rally as well. It felt like an ambush. Yeah, that was one of the interesting things I didn't say.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, right. I received a lot of live streams, so I don't know if you're familiar with Topher Field. Topher's brilliant. He's going to be one of our regular. So with Resolute TV, we generally do, it's a 10-part series. We do sort of hour and a half with just multiple guests, all broken up, and Topher's one of our guests for the upcoming series too. We're just about to relaunch the first episode of that, sort of mucking around, but all this stuff's kind of got in the way, and we're sort of freestyling a little bit. But Topher's brilliant. He was down there doing a live stream in the Melbourne stuff, and and they had the drums, they had the music, there was the chanting, the singing, it was clearly there to be a peaceful protest. Now you're always going to get a dickhead. What is it? There's a bad apple. If there's a bad apple in the libertarian movement, most libertarians go, "Yeah, come on, man, that was out of line." If there's a bad apple in the coppers, they go, "Oh, look, yeah, that's very reasonable." You might have been a bit heavy-handed, but it's okay. So. And from what I saw down there, these guys just, with the horses, just crushed everybody. And now if everybody's social distanced, which they were right up until the coppers harangued them all into a little cage or a little circle, and then started picking them off one by one. I was watching different streams all day, all over the country, just to try and see what went on. I got a bit of stick because I wasn't in person, and I'm like, I've done plenty for the Liberty movement over the last 5 or 6 years. I just can't be everywhere at once. I wanted to be there. I was desperately wanted to be there, but you can only be in so many places, mate.
Absolutely.
What's your next move, and how do you think you're going to tackle?
Well, I mean, in terms of the fine, I'm going to have it heard in court. The reason being is that what's happened in Victoria is that they've thrown any that have gone that direction. It looks like they're going to throw them out, and apparently the Attorney General was saying that that's what's happening down there. Every single one that had been nominated to be heard in court had been thrown out so far. So I'll try that avenue to start off with, because I mean, it is going to get. I did talk to a lawyer last night, and it's going to cost too much money. I'd love to maybe explore whether the police officers were acting outside of the laws they're supposed to abide by. I think that might be a bit of a losing battle, but I'll probably file a complaint with New South Wales Police and let them possibly have it on their record. I've got some friends who are police, and they said, look, they're never good. Complaints are never good, even if they end up in your favour, because you start to get a few and it looks bad for you. So I might do that just to help send a message and all of that. Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about class actions. Have you heard anything much about that? Have you given any thought to jumping in on any of that? Or
I actually did think of that. Yeah, there's the one down in Victoria, I think. Possibly I was thinking I might get in on that now. I did look at it initially, but it wasn't really. I mean, I'm on JobKeeper at the moment because they've killed off so many we've got drips and drabs of work at the moment. So yeah, so I might. That was something that I had considered today. So I'm not just going to pay it. There's no way.
And so going forward, how do you feel you're going to tackle, are you going to go? There's talk of protests week in, week out. Are you going to back up? Is your wife going to divorce you if you do, or is she supportive? These are tough times.
My wife's a very patient woman. She puts up with all my harebrained schemes and things. So this will be no different. I'll go back there. I will be a little bit more aware of what's going on, and maybe try and sort of blend in a little bit more rather than standing up on the side of the fence there and filming. I don't know whether I'd probably just leave for now next time. Given that directive, I think maybe that's probably the best thing to do. I don't think it's worth racking up $10,000 in fines when I haven't figured out the first one. But there's no way I can not turn up again, because I wasn't the only one that copped it, and there was women there was older men, and you know what, they said they'd be back, so I'll certainly be back, that's for sure.
Which is hugely courageous, mate. I commend everybody that shows up and stands for freedom and liberty every chance they get. Do you have an inkling that the old right and left of politics paradigm's dying in the backside, and we're heading more towards totalitarians versus freedom-loving citizens?
Absolutely. I think this is I can't see anything other than that this is one of those monumental moments in human history. And it's either going to go one or two ways, and one's not very good, but the other way we're going to have to have a lot more people start to stand up and actually, it's easy. It would have been easy for me on Saturday to stay at home and relax and hang out with the kids. It was a beautiful day, but you know what? I jumped in my car and I drove from Penrith and paid $20 for parking and put up with all the rubbish. We just got to do it. But we're going to need more numbers turning up week after week after week, because this is we're in this for the long haul. We've got to, best case scenario, we're still going in a couple of months, I think. It's
mate, I think for sure. And if Dan Andrews gets his way down in Victoria, and things, if he keeps everyone locked down and it proves to, we'll say, use the term work, there's nothing stopping the rest of the government's copying, following suit, going, well, sorry, it's working. We're keeping you safe from this virus. Do
you feel like they're the test case?
Sorry,
do you feel like they're the test case down there in Victoria?
Yeah, mate. Some people say to me, that I'm a bit paranoid, and I probably in some circles am a little bit, because I spend a lot of time on this freedom and liberty stuff. So every encroach on freedom and liberty rubs me the wrong way. So, mate, it was probably the perfect state to try it, because they were so happy to vote in a guy who is arguably totalitarian. Dan Andrews has always been fairly clearly communist, or he'd like to be communist. And they voted him in 6 years. I think he's been in power. So you've got to wonder why. Mate, look, if it works down there, Gladys will go, oh, well, it worked in Victoria. And they'll follow suit. We'll all fall like dominoes. And, I've got this terrifying feeling we're all going to be, like chickens in a hatchery, we'll all be sitting there. Our houses will be on permanent lockdown, produce when we're allowed to produce things, and it'll be what we're told to produce. It's really scary times.
I think before Christmas, I have the feeling we're going into lockdown at some stage. I don't think we're at all out of the woods with this. I just have this feeling that by October, I don't know what it is, around October. And I noticed last week the health minister, who's this chief health officer, has slowly started to shift language, and she started to talk a little bit more in the direction of mandatory masks. Just very subtleties, and that's definitely on its way,
mate. And I think you've hit the nail on the head here, and I keep banging on to people about it. I feel like I'm a broken record, but they haven't heard it. I've heard it day in, day out. Is increments. They take your freedoms incrementally. Incrementally, right, look, we're going to make masks mandatory if you're outside your home, because otherwise we're all going to die of COVID. Which, if anybody's done any numbers, Sweden's over the hill. Sweden's back to normal, just about.
Yeah,
they did have a big spike in numbers, and it sounds harsh to say, but there was probably a bit of a genetic. Anybody with those weakened genetics got banged out and died, and that's really sad that they died. But it means you sort of got a stronger population left over. It's sort of a bit Darwinish, but I think there's an element of that in this. And Sweden's back on the bike and doing really well, which is great for Sweden. And we've got Dan Andrews has Victoria locked up now for I think next week or the week after. They've been locked up longer than Italy or China. Yeah, with nowhere near the number of deaths. I mean, the number of deaths is ridiculous.
Do you think things are about to explode down there? I'm reading things that people are writing, and the thought of 7 weeks or however long it is at the moment, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to stay inside that long. I still think that does have the potential to absolutely erupt.
I think you're right, mate. I'll call her my housemate. She helps moderate this stuff, and to be fair, I'd be buggered doing these sort of things without her. Yeah. I'll introduce you to you later. You might, maybe she'll have you on as for her program as well. She does an independent show. But she's actually moved up here from Victoria during the last lot of when they were allowed out and crossing borders and stuff. I just said to her, just move up here. I've got a spare room. It's all yours. Hopefully New South Wales will be the last to fall. Maybe. Mate, the stuff in Victoria is just crazy. I really think it's got all the potential in the world to explode. I also think it's got all the potential in the world to be a miserable failure if we don't manage to unite. Absolutely. On the freedom front, and people are still arguing, and I watch them arguing over left and right politics or just shit that's nonsense. It's like you've just got to realise that all of these people want to lock you up. They want to own you. They want to control you. Mandatory vaccinations. No, bullshit. If you want to have a vaccination, feel free. I'm all for it. Yeah,
absolutely. Wear a mask.
Go bananas. Yep, if you want to wear a mask, I'm all for it as well. But if you think some politician or police officer, and let's be fair, I don't want to put too much shit on the police officers because I think they mean well when they go in. But if some police officer shows up at my front door with an injection saying, mate, we're injecting you with this, whether you like it or not, there's going to be hell to pay, and I won't be backing down. I don't care what it costs.
No way.
Mate, there's a few little questions or concerns, or not concerns, but questions and notes coming through here. So we might try and address a couple. So if anybody does have anything they want to ask Nick, particularly, I'm not that interesting about what went on. But it is sort of mentioned here about, I think they'll threaten to cut off JobKeeper if you're attending rallies. What are your thoughts on that as a concept?
Yeah, that's pretty serious. But I mean, I'd just have to scrap for some work. I'd find something to do. It always works out. Like I say, this is bigger than little old me. So we'd have to cross that hurdle when we get to it, and we sure would. I certainly wouldn't let it make me back down. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, my inclination is always. I'm sort of anti-welfare for anybody other than the most destitute. And I
first time I've ever taken it. I've never taken anything in my life. Yeah, I was the same. Yeah.
Yep. No, I've been on the JobKeeper, and I'm in hospitality as a business, and been sitting here going, well, there's not much I can do. We were shut down for far too long, and just sitting here going, well, we can't even open our doors. What do you want us to do? So I get it. The question I suspect is how do you get around? How do you get around? There's a lot of moving parts that I see, and I wonder about it. The big push for a cashless society, and then the big push for the breakdown of shut businesses down where they've got guys like you or I who are going, well, we've always worked our bums off, but you're not letting us go out and work, as an example, in Victoria especially at the moment. Yeah. You're not allowed to go out and work and earn $1. but if you don't comply with us, we'll cut off the welfare that we didn't want in the first place as a rule. Busy Leagues Pete has mentioned they're threatening to cancel gun licenses if you breach COVID rules. You know, that's interesting. Heaven forbid people are licensed to be armed. I don't know how you feel about the American gun laws.
I don't really have much of an opinion, to tell you the truth. That's what they do, and I don't really much think. I've never been around guns, so I don't really understand them too much. So I sort of tend to not have much of an opinion on that.
Which is fair enough.
You know, yeah.
I mean, I just get worried that, you know, you look at what's happened in the US about, you know, that where business owners are opening against the government's orders, and sort of almost militias are showing up with machine guns and going, well, this guy wants to open his shop, we're going to make sure he's allowed. And there's a big part of that where I think, God, they're allowed.
Yeah, I can. That, you know what? That is one thing, and I'll stand corrected on what I just said. I can now see the argument for the population having kept being able to be armed, and this sort of thing perhaps is why.
Yeah. And I don't know. You say so if they're looking at doing things like removing gun licenses, they're pushing everybody towards a cashless society. I don't know if you're aware of those. I don't know if you're aware of the bail-in laws. I don't know if you've heard of any of those.
No.
That's where essentially the government and the banks can get together. Heaven forbid they did that. That sounds really shonky, and they can basically commandeer everybody's savings, super, the whole shebang. Because they need it more than we do. That's actually in law in Australia, and nobody talks about it. Nobody knows about it. So if you're ever talking to anybody, tell them to look into the bail-in laws. It's actually really insidious stuff. It sort of happened in Greece. Remember a few years ago, Greece sort of really hit the wall, and all of a sudden people were going to ATMs and there was just no money there when they were trying to pull out money, and they're going, well, I've got $1 million in my account, or $1,000 or whatever it is, and it was just all gone. Well, we've got the same laws here. So one day if they get upset enough with us, they just go, no, sorry.
Well,
and then I suppose the other thought is,
sorry. No, you're right.
No, you're all right. Go. You're the guest, mate.
That's not far off. I mean, you look at the where you could claim your $10,000 super twice. That was like the government were making out they were really nice and helping us out and things, but it was literally just it was us, stimulating the economy for them, and that $10,000 would be worth so much more money down the line. You know, so we're losing. We actually lose through that happening.
Yeah, and I mean, we're stimulating the economy with our own money, though. It's not like they haven't done us any great favours. They went, you throughout your working life, you've earned this. We've made you stick it aside. Oh, look, if you need a little bit, we'll let you go because the whole show's buggered. It's crazy thought process. You know, like for me, that is just mental.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what else, mate? What else do you see happening? What got you concerned enough to go? I find people aren't all of a sudden just go, oh, bang, I'm going to go to a rally. Were there other things previously that?
Well, when this stuff started, right, I was concerned that they were still sending the kids to school, because my train of thought was that this is either the worst thing that's ever coming and they're not telling us everything, or it was absolute bullshit and they're going to pull one over us. So I watched it unfold with an open mind, and then I think it was the day I started to see Brazil became an example of how bad it could get. And I saw some numbers come up on the news of their fatality rate, and I went, "Oh, that looks high." So I went and logged on and looked up their population and done the math, and I went, "Well, actually, that's pretty small," and they hadn't done all the things that we did. And then I just from there started to connect all these dots, and things that I thought were utterly bizarre, I'm looking at and going, there's no other explanation than that is true. So it was just that chain of events of connecting the dots, like a lot of people are. I mean, I've got a 60-year-old father that's out printing up anti-COVID shirts and things like that, and he wears it when he's not working. That's what he's wearing. And he's never done that in his life. Yeah. So, like, I never would have picked it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. So yeah.
We've actually got a bit of a merch line starting to come together for this program. So there'll be some nice
Beautiful.
anti-government slogans on there and libertarian, freedom-loving slogans. So hopefully we'll be able to shift a bit of merchandise. You know, we don't do PayPal or anything like that on here. So we just, you know, hopefully we can give somebody something for supporting the whole show. Mate, has anybody got any questions for Nick while we've got him here? Nick's absolutely, yes. Definitely some enthusiastic discussion going on in the discussion thread. I don't know.
Oh, good.
Can you
I'll
see
have to have a look.
the discussion thread?
No, I haven't. Oh, oh, wow. Okay. Oh, so people are actually watching.
Yeah. I think there's 16 at the moment. I don't know how
lovely.
many overall have been watching. We'll know that at the end, but I think a few have been logging in and logging out.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So, and look, and mate, we're trying to do these sorts of things as often as we can. We're going to try. If you're open to it, I can introduce you to a few other people that are doing little programs. And mate, this story is well and truly worth it.
Yeah. Can I just add one thing too? I've had so many people that were at that protest on Saturday message me and literally express how heartbroken they are. You know, people talking to me about that they're literally depressed today and things like that at what they saw through all that. There's a lot of people. I mean, there's not just me that's sitting here today. I mean, I hardly slept last night. You know, just from the tension around it and things like that. But there's a lot of other people who are sitting at home right now who are anxious and worried and things like that. So this whole conversation, this goes far beyond just me being here and venting what's happened to me. There's a lot of people that have been affected by what happened yesterday.
Yeah, mate. I think
I
saw a lot of posts with people disappointed about the numbers, but I actually saw a lot of hope come out of it. When I saw the numbers, I was like, this is hope. This is people stepping up. People who have never protested, people who have never questioned government are starting to, which for me, that's great. That's a step forward. It wasn't. I think that some people thought that there was just going to be 1 million people show up yesterday and go, right, it's all solved now. The government's going to get back in its box. It was never going to be that easy.
No.
I've got a question here from Dia. Dia's going to likely try to invite you on her program. She's all right, this one. Question for Nick. Do you think you're getting red-pilled on a lot of things? And is our future breadlines?
You know what? I'm incredibly optimistic. I think that what's ultimately going to happen here is that everybody unites. It'll be, you know, we're already looking at Muslim leaders speaking out and encouraging their community to come out with everyone else and telling them that we're all one. I think we'll all come together eventually. I think there's a lot of pain ahead, but I think we're all going to come together, and there'll just be too many numbers, and eventually things will head down the right track. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I've got a new. She just told me a new trick. So she's like my digital coach. This girl, yeah.
That's great. Yeah, that's clever.
That's how we do that. So there's another one here from Grant. I don't know, Grant. So any of you guys too watching, look, please, you know, subscribe to the channel because we're really starting to try and grow this. If you have a look at Series 1, go back and check out some of the videos. We've had some really A-grade guests, economists, and we do Bitcoin segments. So if you've never watched the show before and this is your first introduction, have a look at the actual regular program. It's really cool. So, and we'd appreciate the support. So, Mr. Star, Nick, where was the protest at, and is there a website to find out future dates and locations?
Well, that protest was at Sydney, and you know what? No one knew who organised it. That was one of the interesting things, and that's why I brought in that whole ambush thing, because nobody knows who organised it. It sort of just showed up, and that was it. Yeah.
It wasn't an independent leader, yeah, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that I saw, I don't know, are you familiar with Thanos down in Melbourne?
Yeah. I saw what happened to him because he disappeared for a couple of days there, and I think he did a live today. Fairly
well put a gun to his head and said X, Y, and Z, and this is how it's going to be. So.
Yeah,
crazy. Thanos came on the show as well after the last lot of lockdowns where he and Renee got arrested.
Okay.
So they were really good and well, great people who were just standing for what they believe in, even if you don't agree with them. I think.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I admire Fenos's passion, but he's not necessarily my cup of tea. Yelling and carrying on, but geez, passionate. Because you know the guy from Exercise My Rights. What's his name? You know, he got arrested and taken away yesterday.
I saw something about it. A couple of people messaged me saying, "Did you see that he got?" I can't remember his name. I'm not familiar with him. We haven't met or anything.
I shook his hand yesterday, and I feel terrible because he's a lovely guy. And he seems to think he was, and I would agree, he was targeted 100%.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
For sure.
Yeah. Because he's such a... Hey?
I was just going to say, have you ever been involved in any protesting for, and I'll throw them out there, the Extinction Rebellion, the Black Lives Matter, any of those sort of things? Have any of those sort of things ever?
No.
You know?
No.
Oh, look, so some people I've sort of come across in this little space are serial protesters. If there's a protest about 2 flies up the street, they'll show up.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You know, like so it's just
I went to a rally once. I went to a rally once. It was Pauline Hanson at the ABC when she was at the ABC.
Okay, right.
Yeah, when she was going to protest there because they were given, like she was getting such a hard time and she'd gotten in and all of that. So I went up there with a mate. Yeah.
So does that mean you're a Pauline Hanson guy?
No, not actually. You know what? I've got an offer. Yeah, nah, not at all. Actually,
I haven't met her in person. I've done a few little projects with Mark Latham, and intellectually the guy is brilliant. It's hard not to debate his intelligence. But it's interesting, I suppose, because I've never been really a pro-protest guy. She goes to a lot of pro-life rallies and things like that. As a chef, I've always taken the piss out of the vegan activists a little bit. Not so much because they're protesting, but when they violate people's property rights, that sort of pisses me off. Don't go to a guy's farm or into a restaurant or whatever. Go into a public space, where was it yesterday? Memorial Park in Melbourne or Hyde Park. They're public spaces. Go and protest there till your heart's content.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like the cyclists block the roads. Don't block the roads, Let
people sounding like that Butterfield.
Yeah.
Poor cyclist.
It's
here we go. What do we got here? Yes. What can we do right now to cause the ripple effect and get a constructive conversation going? Positive change. What do you think, Nick? What do you think?
Well, given the vibe at yesterday's rally, I mean that is the perfect. That would have been. It just would have been such a beautiful day, like just incredible. So I think protests like that will work. I think people need to resist the urge at all costs to get violent because otherwise the whole movement will get tarnished by, because of course the media will run with, some zealot who starts trouble. You only need one to cause a problem. As far as the constructive conversation, I know on my social media, I'll post things to make people think rather than telling them what to think. And I personally find that works best rather than saying, oh, no, this is how it is. Just open up the door, post a document that explains that the criteria for COVID is a very broad school and things like that. And they can read for themselves these things that you're already thinking.
Yeah. Start to process it better. I mean, look, and programs like this, that's what this is designed to do, is to try and get these conversations going, try to get like-minded people. You and I have never met, but clearly we have a certain amount in common. And I suppose that's one of the advantages to the digital age until we're all banned. But, and I think the hardest part too, and I don't know Dominic personally, or I don't really even know you, Nick, one area that I see a lot of people who come unstuck is they can agree on 90% of things, or even 80% of things, but that 20% they want to go to war over, as opposed to just going, you know what, I've got a slightly different opinion to you on that. D is very, very pro-life. I'm not pro-choice. I'm pro-choice up to a point. You know, if it happens in the first month or two, and you go, look, this is really not for me. This was a disaster. Yeah. But then I look at the late term stuff and I go, hang on, that's bullshit. That's if it takes you that long to figure out you've got a problem, you're not using your brain. But we can sit back and we can have a bit of a debate and a discussion. And I'm like that with most people. Do you find that that's a big thing?
Yeah, I mean, I try to be civil with most people no matter what. I don't mind difference. I think there was a woman today that posted and had what came across as a little bit of crack at me for how I dealt with the police yesterday and should I have just moved on and things like that. And I was having a discussion with her. And I actually thought, you know what, there's merit to what she said. And perhaps there was a way I could have left that situation without offering any argument whatsoever. I think she basically said, like, you're never going to appeal to their ego by arguing with them. The only way you're going to maybe bring them across is to just be reasonable, leave, and hope they start to see your side of the story. And though at the time I initially disagreed with her, by the end of it, I was actually saying, you know what, that's probably something to think about, and you might have something there.
Yeah. Look, I think that constructive dialogue is really important, and the willingness to sort of have an open look at what's going on. It's going to be a crazy time, and I don't think it's going to get any necessarily better. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. But if it unites more of us, well, then it makes it all worthwhile, in my opinion. So, mate, has anybody else got some questions for Nick while we've got him here? We're pushing on for an hour, which that's pretty cool, and it's our first ever actual random live stream. Normally, I think we did one before with Ricardo Bozzi and myself, another man I have great respect for in this space. Was just about to ask, if you're not sure who Ricardo is, so I'm a Liberal Democrat. We are not the Liberal Party, for anybody who's concerned. Ricardo is the head of a party called the Australia One Party. They're sort of a new party trying to get registered. If you don't support the Liberal Democrats, I'm fairly cool with you supporting Australia One. They're the two most principled parties as far as I'm concerned in the country. How to deal with cops pushing compliance? Any thoughts, mate?
Well, like I said, now I'll look at it a little bit differently. Like I said, after this discussion with this woman, and to tell you the truth, next time I'll probably just, within reason, just move on in the same situation. But then it might be different. I mean, if they come after us at the start of a protest, I mean, that to me is a little more unreasonable, and I could be less likely to move. In the sense of dealing with them, I'm actually waiting on some things to come to try and really get educated on, how things work and what I can and can't do, what I can and can't say, and not to antagonize them, but just to know and be able to stand my ground in what I imagine will be inevitable future interactions at these events.
Yeah.
Because there's so much information out there.
It's going to be a steep learning curve for an awful lot of us, I think. Is Nick a Christian?
No, not at all.
Nick?
No,
not at all. Me either.
No, not at all. No, I meditate a lot, so I'm a little more out there with my beliefs on this stuff.
I vote one more hour. Jeez, Dominic, you're appreciating the love here, mate. Ricardo is the boss.
That's
Brett,
kind.
Vote One Nation. Look, mate, I would say I'm about 70% there on One Nation. I'm 100% convinced Australia One will do the right thing. I have full faith in the Liberal Democrats. You may not always agree with what we come out with, but we will never. We have two basic core principles that are just we'll never vote for an increase in taxes, and we'll never vote for a reduction in individual liberties. Look, the One Nation guys, as I said earlier, I've got a lot of time for Mark Latham. He taught me quite a few things while we were just, we spent a bit of time together. That was great. Emma Eros, who's involved in One Nation, she's amazing. I haven't met Pauline yet. We're sort of trying to see if we can get her involved in the show. If you know her, give her a call. Tell her I'd be more than happy to talk to her. But yeah, look, I do see great value in One Nation as well. I'd like to see a bit more consistency out of them, to be perfectly honest. He sounds a bit new agey. Are you a bit new agey, Nick?
Yeah, a little bit. You picked it up straight away. It would take a woman to figure that out. Their intuition is more in tune. Yeah.
Oh, look, Dee is on the bit of a hunt for a husband at the moment. Just I should be a bit embarrassed that I said that, but she's at that stage. So gents, I'll be scouring resumes. I'll have to tick off on whoever gets the gig. But see how you go. Put in your resumes now. What else have we got here? We have. I miss Fraser Anning, but anyone else share that similar sentiments? Fraser Anning, it was a bit like he reminded me of the early Pauline stuff. For the first few years for Pauline, she had about 3 policies that made sense. The rest was gibberish, but you liked the spirit and that, which was great. I think Fraser was all right as well. He had a couple of areas where I thought, hey, bang on, and then the rest of it I sort of went really in over your head, but then that's how life happens. Oh my God, Dean! Were you familiar with Fraser Anning at all, Nick?
I can vaguely remember him, but only what I saw through mainstream. So my perception is probably way off. Yeah.
He got hit in the head with an egg, and it was all very.
That's dramatic. Right. Oh, no, because that was. I mean, you can't go because didn't something similar happen to someone afterwards, and that person got charged. So something else happened around then, and there was a double standard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, like from what I recall of it was a few years ago now, and some young bloke belted him in the head, and then a few blokes accosted the bloke that got belted or did the belting.
Yeah,
and what I mean, you know, if you would have hit somebody in the head with an egg, you probably did deserve a smack in the mouth, whether it was right, wrong, or indifferent. You know, so the fact that Fraser gave the guy a smack up the chops, I wasn't overly offended by.
No.
That's just my opinion. What else is in here? Robin Scott for Western Australia is a hard worker for One Nation. Oh, I don't know Robin. But again, if Robin wants to come on and talk liberty and freedom and the way forward, I'd be more than happy to get an introduction, Brett. No worries. What else have we got here? We've got a few. We'll just scour a few of these for a few minutes, Nick, and we'll. If there's anything you want to address too, don't be shy, mate. It's a free speech channel. Do what you like.
Oh wow, free speech. Look out.
Yeah. You won't get me censoring anybody as much as it upsets him. Some bloke accused me of blocking him and censoring him the other day. Mate, I'll tell you, I didn't block you. It's never happened. I don't even know how to block people because I just don't care. If you want to call me a bastard, call me a bastard. What else is going on here? Dear Beltran, shameless plug. It sounds like Dominic's working his magic on Dia. That's very romantic. Freedom of speech is worth saving. No argument there.
No.
Mate, is there anything else you want to touch on before we look at winding up?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Apart from the fact that hopefully slowly things continue to build and we keep having these conversations, and week by week, day by day, we can get numbers out there and eventually put an end to all this. Hey,
mate, I'd love to see that as well. I've got a personal philosophy, and it's going on our t-shirts. Do no harm, but take no shit. And I think that's very fitting for where we're at in society at the moment, mate.
Absolutely.
So, look, thanks for coming on Resolute TV. It was impromptu. We're glad to have you. I know the Liberal Democrat guys are pretty supportive of what's going on, and they're going to start tackling a lot of this stuff as well. I'm no longer on the committees, but I am involved. So we'll be doing everything we can around those ways, mate. Thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it. We might try and get you back down the track. We might get you on a couple of other channels. We'll introduce you around. And I think great story. Appreciate your time and effort and energy. Let's wind it up and call it a night, eh?
Beautiful. Thank you so much for everything. I really appreciate you letting us get the story out there.
No worries, mate. This is the whole reason I sort of created this little program, is for this sort of thing. Exactly. It's custom built. So, ladies and gentlemen, everyone, thank you, Nick. Again, subscribe, like, share, all that sort of stuff. The sharing helps other people get an idea of the type of work we're trying to do. Keep an eye out for the website coming up. Check out the Dia Beltran channel. Check out Topher Field. He's done a great job. And then if you want to go through some of the other guests and check out their work, there is a bit of a body of work developing on Resolute TV now. So thank you all so much for joining us. Have a great evening. Stay strong in these strange times. And yeah, do no harm, but take no shit. Have a good night.
I like it. Thanks, Dean.
Broadcast.